So my process of determining what would be the best editor was basically going through, seeing what looked interesting myself, but also reading reviews, you know, top 10, top 7, top whatever. Going through YouTube videos, any kind of research that I could find that would just review apps and why they were good. I looked at what was the best apps for making a video fast, for being the most robust, that could do the most things. I even found apps that would just edit the whole thing for you. And after looking at them all, I was looking for iPhone, and there's another one that's good for Android, but the one that absolutely stood out above them all was an app that initially, when I looked at, I decided was not for me. And that app is called LumaFusion. When I first checked it out, I like Apple products because to me, I find them very simple. I used to use Windows. In fact, I was a Windows administrator. And when I got into Apple, I found their stuff simpler and a lot more easy to follow. And so when I saw LumaFusion at first, it had so many buttons and it didn't look super user-friendly to me. I felt like the learning curve was just too much. I wanted something simpler. But as I started checking out other apps and going back to LumaFusion, I finally decided to spend the money to buy it and start using it, and that's when I really fell in love with it. There were other apps that I think do cooler stuff. They have a cooler look. They're actually, I think they're funner to use. But I really started appreciating LumaFusion when I started running into limitations with the other apps. There's several things that LumaFusion does better than anyone else, and I'm going to go through those things now. The first thing that I love about LumaFusion is that it's a one-time payment. LumaFusion costs $15 and you're done. Oh, excuse me. Costs $30. So the one thing that I really love about LumaFusion is the cost. As so many apps are going to a subscription base, a lot of them will be at least $5, if not $10 a month. At the end of a year, that's between $60 and $120. And then you have to start all over again. I don't like that. I don't want to go subscription based. LumaFusion is $30. One time, you're done. That's fantastic. I will spend that in a second. So thank you to LumaFusion for doing something that was totally accessible by anybody who's serious about doing video on their phone. Cost, awesome. The second thing that is amazing is the way LumaFusion imports the video. Now, as I started going through and using video, I noticed that I would go through and maybe I'll choose, right? You shoot a bunch of footage and then you pick the video that you want, and you might set in and out points, you might not, but you then move it into the app. What a lot of them will do is start converting the video. Why does it have to convert it? It's already in a format, but a lot of them, that's how they've set it up. What that means is, and especially if you're working with a lot of video, because you can easily edit 20, 30 minutes, on one of these apps. That's less common. We use them more for short stuff, a minute to 5 minutes, but they'll import all that. That doubles the use of the video and eats up your space on your phone. Eats it up fast. And it takes time. So you hit the button and then you have to sit there and wait. LumaFusion doesn't do that. It doesn't import anything. It just accesses the video that is already sitting there. That is huge. There's another huge thing that they do in their editing process that makes things so simple. when you look into a lot of editors, and this includes iMovie, which Apple, which tends to be amazing at what they design, they do this too. You'll say, I want to import a video, and they'll show you a list of all these squares of all these videos, and they'll have a thumbnail for each of them. So what happens when maybe you're doing an interview, you're doing a selfie, and maybe you've done several takes? How do you know which one is the one you want? You don't. You have to listen to it first. But most, I would say 80%, which is insane to me, 80% of the apps out there think that you're just going to know which one you want just by looking at the thumbnail. Sometimes I'll be shooting the street. I'll be shooting a portion of the street walking by. I can't tell from the thumbnail what's on there. I need to see it. Most of them don't let you see it. They want you to import it first. So then you import it, and then you have a bunch of clips that then you can go through. I don't think that's as efficient. With LumaFusion, and this is a huge deal because this is something that you do the first thing every single video. You can select the video, and you can look through the video right there in the app. You can look through it. It has lots of scrubbing features, which means basically how you move forward and back. And you can find exactly, first of all, you can look at the video to see if that's the one you want. If not, the list of other videos to check is right there. So you just click, scrub, find the one that you want, set the in and out points. That's the other thing that's amazing. You can set the in and out points right there. So it comes in exactly when you want and goes out exactly when you want, and then push one button and it drops it down in there, and you're done. That's huge. The alternative that a lot of other places do is you will scrub. You will, first off, you don't know which one it is, so you have to guess. It goes into the editor, and then you have to go through this whole other process to trim the video. So you click on it, it'll put it in a window, and then you can set the in and out points. But all those are extra things that when you are using LumaFusion, you don't have to do. It's just you do it in one motion, boom, pop it in. That is a huge time saver, and the fact that it doesn't convert the videos is a huge space saver on your phone. Another thing that I really love about LumaFusion is that there's the fast forward, the speed up and slow down capabilities. No one has more. Even Apple. I think the fastest you can go is you can triple the speed, and you can't go in small increments. With LumaFusion, first off, you can go in teensy tiny increments to start out with, which is perfect. Both to start up and slow down. There have been times when, for instance, I was going to send a video to someone on Instagram, and they had, at the time that I was sending this, they had a 1 minute, you couldn't send anything over a minute. Well, mine was like 1 minute and 3 seconds, and I didn't want to cut anything off, so I wanted to speed it up just a hair. But I went through app after app after app and could not find an app that would let me speed it up just a little bit. It would be 5%, 10%, 15, 20, and that just made it too fast, so I sound like a chipmunk, which is not what I wanted. LumaFusion, you can go in teensy tiny increments, either a little bit faster or just a little bit slower. That's awesome. As you move up, it starts chunking it up into like 10, 25, I think the next is 50, which makes sense. The other thing I love about LumaFusion is that the extremes are higher than anybody else. So Apple will go to maybe 3 times as fast. Other places will only do 2. I don't even think I know one that does 4. I mean, maybe there are some because they're constantly updating. But LumaFusion, you can go 6 times as fast. Nobody else goes that fast. You can also get it down to their slow motion, I think, is at 240. I'm not 100% sure what that means. I don't know if that's like an eighth the speed or 1/240th. Really, really, as slow as you want, they can take you there. Now that's cool because most phones the camera on there, you can shoot in slow motion. You can shoot in, that actually makes sense because I think 240 frames per second is how you do slow motion. So in 1 second, a typical camera, filming camera, will usually do 24 frames, and these will usually do 30 frames. So if you do 240 frames, you can stretch those out and get something that's really beautiful and soft, slow motion that looks incredible, especially when it's like water that's just slowly coming. It looks great. LumaFusion, I've never gone to the extreme of the slow motion capabilities, and it's made a huge difference in my videos. It's another reason I always go back to this, because I'll want to add this effect and I'll want to move something fast and then stop and go slow motion. No one can do it like LumaFusion. One of the things that I think that I didn't like about LumaFusion is, similar to Windows, they just don't have style. So Apple has a lot of style, or I guess you could say Apple has a cool style, Windows has a crummy style, but nobody thinks of Windows as being stylish. No one, because they're not. LumaFusion has a couple of titles. For instance, you can use titles to design how to include in your video, which is great. None of them are very stylish. That absolutely reminds me of Windows. But what's cool about it is it gives you a lot of choices of designing your own and then saving that. So at first I didn't like it, but after I spent a little bit of time, I actually started copying designs from another app that I loved. I would go to the app, they would have a design for a title that I loved. I would just take a look at it and I would go over to LumaFusion and I would recreate it there. And then I would save it as a favorite, and then I could just push with one button, I could push and insert this title into my video, and then I had the best of both worlds. I had something really stylish that I liked, that I created, and I had all the other capabilities of LumaFusion. So that's amazing. To kind of going along with that is the fact that our phones come with certain fonts. I mean, they come with a number of fonts, which is cool, but sometimes they don't have the font that you really need. With LumaFusion, you can import any font into this. So as I was looking through the style that I liked, if I didn't have the font, I could just go on the internet, find it, put it into LumaFusion, and bingo, now I have it. That's not just with fonts. This is another thing that I love about LumaFusion that I don't know that the others can do. You can import PNG files. So a PNG file is basically just an image, but you can erase the background so that the background is invisible. So if it's like a splash of color with your name on it, you can put that up there and it looks like it's been splashed right up on the screen. It doesn't have a white square around it. So the fact that you can do that and the amount of customization that you can do with LumaFusion is incredible. Those are literally, off the top of my head, the biggest things that I love about LumaFusion. LumaFusion, you can also do different. You can do different layers. You can do 6 different layers of video, 6 different of audio, which is way more than I've ever used, to either combine them or to mix them, or if that works with your editing style. And they have a number of different, they have everything else you can want, from different transitions and enough tools that you can customize those. They also have a number of different options for color grading. So if you want to make it, this style, that style, black and white, sepia tone, so many options. So at first, all those options were overwhelming, but I've learned to really, 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 really love LumaFusion. It's incredible. It's almost like having it basically is having a full-featured editing app on your phone. Nobody else does that. Not like LumaFusion, and not with all those good things. So, if it wasn't clear, I absolutely think that that's the best one. If you own an iPhone, I don't think they have one for Android unless that's changed since I made this video. I don't think they do. When I talk to my friends who use Androids, the app that they use is PowerDirector. And I haven't used that a lot, so I can't, say yay or nay, but I do know that PowerDirector has a lot of history behind it. I'm going to guess that it's similar to LumaFusion in that way, but I would definitely check that out. The other app, so my recommendation for an iPhone is LumaFusion, for Android is PowerDirector. I'm just nuts about LumaFusion. Recently, a third app has really come out on top, and that is, I want to mention it here because it's fast, and that's Adobe. So Adobe is well known for, it means so many things. Adobe Premiere is a video editing app that is excellent, that you can use for both Windows and Apple. I used it for many years and loved it. They also have a Premiere app for the phone, which is super basic. Sometimes basic is good because basic is simple, easier to navigate. The reason I bring the Adobe Rush, which is the name of it, up is because it's very quick, right? And in many ways, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make some really quick videos so that it doesn't impact our day so much. And they are really good at that. It's designed like many of the other apps out there. The things I don't like about it, number one, $10 a month. So if you already have an Adobe subscription, this might be perfect. This might be included in your subscription. You have to look. But if you don't, you might be looking at $120 a year to use that. I don't have an Adobe subscription, so to me, that doesn't make sense. Secondly, at least when I started using it, it didn't even have speed up or slow down. That wasn't even an option. So right off the bat, I'm not going to use it. I think that it's very classy and it looks very cool, like in a good way. I think classy is the best way, which is great. I mean, going classy is a great choice, and they make that easy. So that would be a good reason, just simplicity, ease of use, to try out Adobe Rush. And that's available for both Android and for iPhone. I want to make a pitch, though, before you decide that, well, LumaFusion is too difficult for me, it's too complicated, I want to go with something simple. My recommendation, if you are going to, well, if you're making videos, you are going to jump in and do video editing on your phone, my recommendation is that you go with LumaFusion, even if you want something simple. And this is why. It is going to have a certain learning curve. So you do have to go through that. Can't get by that. But the learning curve that you need to start out is just enough to put the video in there. Cutting it is super easy. Learn how to put the music in there. Learn how to put a title. You can start using it. The reason why I think you should continue using it is what happens when you get good at that and you want to improve the quality of your videos. All right, if you're using another app that can't even go there, you're stuck and you've reached the max of what you can do. Whereas with LumaFusion, you have a ton of room to grow and you don't need to relearn something. So that's my pitch for, even if you're looking for something that's easy to use and simple, my recommendation is that you get LumaFusion for one price and you put in the time to learn how to use it. Take the time also to create the titles the way you want to see them. At some point, maybe I will do a tutorial on how to use LumaFusion because it's really in depth. So I'm not up for doing that right now. There are other, you can go check out online. There's other ones out there. But I think you should go with LumaFusion. I'm just flat out going to say it. So that's it. I'm just going to say it. So no ambiguity there. If you're on Android, I think the Power Director is an amazing choice. I can't recommend it personally just because I haven't used it. But from what I hear, it's really great. If not, then Adobe Rush is, I hear great things about it. I used it for a little bit. I thought it was really classy and good. So I think those are two really good choices you have. Maybe at some point LumaFusion will come out with something for Android. Next, I want to go through, this was a long video. This was 20 minutes, but I want to go through and show you a couple of other really cool apps that can do some amazing things that LumaFusion doesn't do.